Ladies and gentlemen, Shalom Aleichem, and welcome to the Religious Zionist Educational Network of Yeshivot Bnei Akiva of 70 schools, yeshivot and ulpanot in Israel, currently with 24,000 students, with over 100,000 alumni, leading the future of Torah, science, technology, medicine, IDF, and politics in Israel. My name is Rabbi Shlomo Kimchi. I live in Efrat, 10 minutes south of Jerusalem, and I'm currently the vice chairman of this fantastic educational network. Today, we are excited to be launching YABA-DO as the new branding of American Friends of Yeshivot Bnei Akiva, AFYBA. YABA is the Hebrew abbreviation of Yeshivot Bnei Akiva, and DO is what is happening in our schools, yeshivot and ulpanot. We are taking this opportunity to share with you a unique glimpse into YABA-DO, and today we will show you a bit of what we do and how we do it. Doing is very basic and fundamental in Jewish life, to such an extent that the moment HaKadosh Baruch Hu offered us to be his unique nation, Am Sgula, and give us the Torah at Mount Sinai, we all answered him, Na'aseh v'nishma, we will do and we will listen. Doing comes even before listening. This is not blind faith, as together with the actual doing, we are committed to listen actually to what the Torah explains to us, why, what, and how to conduct our life. Rabbi Yehuda Aryeh Leib Alta was the Hasidic Rebbe of Gur, one of the leading Jewish figures in Poland 100 years ago. In his commentary, Sfat Emet, he comments that we put on tefillin every morning, first on our arm and then on our head, to remind us that the action of doing mitzvot with our arms and limbs comes even before the action of listening and hearing, learning Torah with our heads. However, since by the learning we gain further understanding and appreciation of mitzvot, we return to do dikdukei mitzvot, fine-tuning, by delicately winding our tefillin around our fingers. This action is in order to remind us once again the importance of doing, that it is not only the first step, but the last step too. In today's day and age, with so many uncertainties, today more than ever, we must be focused on doing. Our schools, yeshivot and ulpanot are doing a lot. In spite of COVID-19, they're every day busy with doing as much as possible for our students, whether via Zoom or in actual person, integrating advanced technology and teaching methods to students and teachers so they will obtain the skills needed. Our students are doing much more than usual chesed and voluntary work in their individual communities, as is arranged by each yeshiva and ulpana, with a focus to help those currently in quarantine and the elderly who are at risk. Our friends around the world are also requested to join this doing mode by logging onto our website, learning more about us and supporting us financially in these difficult times. Today, I want to show you what it is that YABA-DO from a few angles. We will have the honor and privilege today to interview one of our well-known alumni, Mr. Naftali Bennett. I would like to thank my good friend, Mr. Alan Wilds, president of the AFYBA YABA-DO board in America, for conducting this interview. I would like to take this opportunity to thank another good friend of mine, Mr. Yehuda Kohn, current executive director of YABA-DO, who you will have the pleasure to meet later in this presentation. Now, I would like to show you a short video we prepared for you in English, showing one of the current dimensions of our work, how we are absorbing new English-speaking olim in our yeshivot and ulpanot all over Israel. You will see people like yourself who used to live in America, Canada, and South Africa, and have integrated beautifully into our schools within the YABA network. Well, at YABA-DO we have many success stories, and here we will be sharing with you just a few of them. Please take a look.
Yeah, I can see that.
Thank you. Describe your first day of school.
basically lost.
On the first day of school, when I walked into the classroom, like everyone, literally a couple of students stood up and came right to me and asked me my name, and they introduced themselves to me and made me feel really welcome.
They welcomed us like family. On the first day, I felt like I belonged, and that's something I haven't felt for a while.
My principal came up to me and asked me if I need any help.
Everyone was sitting in the amphi and having an amazing time singing and dancing, and once I found my classroom, I walked inside and everyone looked at me and was like, oh my God, you're new, you're from America, and everyone started running up to me and giving me hugs and were saying, we're so excited that you're here, and it was such a fun day and a day that I will never forget.
Okay, tell me one story about a specific student.
One of the first things I remember is right after she started school, one Friday, there was a knock on the door and one of her new friends came to deliver a challah for us for Shabbat. And it just made me feel so welcome, that she was so welcome, that the girls were doing all these things for her and going out of their way outside of school to make her feel welcome and to be friends with her.
One specific student I remember, he was extremely bright in computers. And he had bounced around the different schools because he didn't understand the language. And when he came to our school, he finally was able to find himself. He eventually did 10 yechidot in computers, and he won a cyber contest internationally when he was as young as 19 years old.
The students that are most meaningful to me are the students that have become my friends. One specific student arrived to YTA with tears in her eyes. She loves studying, she loves academics, she loves being in school and having friends. But unfortunately, when she made Aliyah, she didn't have the language in order to make friends. She wasn't able to go into a school and perform academically because she couldn't speak Hebrew properly. And she decided to come to YTA to study in English. And when she walked into my office, she had tears in her eyes. And I told her, when you come to YTA, you're not coming to a school, you're coming to join a family.
I think the most single emotional moment for me when I realized we've done the right thing is Sarah was very reluctant to make Aliyah. She in fact told us that she's moving in with my sister-in-law and she's not coming with us. And one day we were just talking and I said to her, would you like to go back to South Africa? And she said, never. And for me then I realized we had done the right thing.
One stereotype about Israelis that is not true.
I think we can both agree is that that just because you're in Israel doesn't mean you're gonna get attacked by a terrorist.
Before I came, I thought and I heard stories about Israelis being super tough.
I kind of came here with this fear that everyone's really mean, they're all prickly. And when I actually got to know Israelis and people that live here, none of them are prickly on the outside. Like maybe you get the odd person there that's grumpy or someone that's horrible.
I was at the Ashdod beach a couple weeks ago with my family, and we had car issues. We're sitting on the side waiting for somebody, and 3 Israelis came over and asked us, do you need anything? What's there to do? How can I help you? And that is something that definitely is different than what I expected.
Everyone always told me that it's very hard to communicate with Israelis. You know, they always say what they want to say and not exactly what I want to hear. But I learned that is not true. Throughout my high school experience and even after that, I realized that people are so loving and so caring, and whenever I actually need help, they're always there to help me.
When I was in the States, one stereotype that I heard about Israelis is that sometimes they're grumpy or mean, cold maybe, and maybe even by day one. Definitely that stereotype it went away.
There's another stereotype about everyone eating hummus here. The thing is that's true.
100%.
Yeah. Morning, noon, and night, that's all we eat. That's it.
What is your favorite lesson at school, obviously? I really love Toshba. I love Toshba.
No.
Yes, I love Toshba. Our teacher, his name is Rabbi Adler, and he is the most amazing teacher you will ever meet.
In the beginning, there were a lot of people that told me that math would be very difficult and very challenging, and it has been, but the teachers are very nice and they help us succeed in the challenges that we face in the class.
My favorite lesson was Machshavet Israel. I have no idea how to say that in English. Jewish philosophy.
My favorite lesson in YTA is probably math, because my teacher, Mr. Cantor,
He is super understanding. He's very patient. He helps you with anything. And the class, it's just like the class itself is just very fun.
There's a huge difference between the Ulpana and the American schools, the American Jewish schools, at least the one that Rivka went to. She went to what would be considered here a Haredi school. So there was no Yom HaAtzmaut, there was no teaching about Israel. Any Ivrit class she got was in Ivris, which is the American way of saying Ivrit. So she came here, and the way that the love of Israel is taught, and the trips that they went on, and the overnights and the camping, and just they learned to love Israel from the Torah and from the Tanakh and from the ground up, literally lying on the ground, they learned to love the country. And I think that that's amazing.
It's very different because it's much more focused on a hands-on approach where they take the kids out of school. They're able to really go to the different areas of Israel and teach them on site. Which is unique, and you don't really have that opportunity in America.
In South Africa, my children went to a very small school. They had small classes, and it amazed me that even in such a small class, so many children needed extra help and extra lessons outside of school. I wondered why the teacher wasn't more available and more hands-on. And when I came here, I was absolutely amazed at how the teacher helped my girls. They gave them extra time and extra help.
Honestly, I think sport's my favorite lesson. I know it sounds cliche, but because we're such a diverse culture, and there's so many kids from all over the world in YTSA, like I've never played basketball before, I've never played American football before, but by going to YTSA, and when I went to sport, it was the first time I ever played basketball, it was the first time I ever played American football, and also there's students there that never played soccer in their life, and like they played soccer with me, and it's honestly it's amazing to see how many cultures we can bring into one.
So there's a league of baseball in Israel with a bunch of cities, and each city has their own team. It's mostly people that made Aliyah, people whose parents are American, but there's also some Israelis that play, which is really interesting. And they come and learn a new sport that's totally foreign for them.
I see life abroad and life in Israel like two different types of restaurants. Abroad, it's like going to a restaurant, you wait for a waiter, you get a menu, and you more or less order what you want, and they bring it to you. Here in Israel, there are no waiters. It is a buffet. You have to take your plate, take your knife and your fork, go to the counter and collect the food. It's excellent food, but you must be proactive.
One difference between American and Israeli students.
I remember when I was in my Israeli school, a student would just get up and go to the bathroom. And I was so shocked. I was so shocked. And in South Africa, if you got up and left the classroom, you'd get in so much trouble. You'd have to raise your hand, ask the teacher to go to the bathroom, and you called every teacher ma'am or sir. And I came to Israel and I called one of my teachers ma'am, and she told me don't ever call me that again because it makes me feel old.
In Canada, people are very polite, so they say thank you a lot. And here, they're also polite, but just in a different way. So I would say thank you after everything someone did for me, and then at one point they're like, stop saying thank you, we got it. You don't have to say thank you every second.
So in South Africa, a lot of the students take their work a lot more serious, and sometimes they take it too serious, where they don't give themselves social life. Where with Israeli students, they find a balance. They take work serious, but at the same time, they're playful and everything, and they have more of a social life.
Well, in America, a teacher is a teacher. Here, a teacher could also be more like your friend.
Israelis are more open. The Americans, on the other hand, sorry. Just trying to remember, I haven't been with them so long time.
Which word in Hebrew will you always say with an accent?
Every word.
I don't know if there's one word. I would say there's a lot of Israeli words or Hebrew words that I try not to say.
So any word which is an English word that Israelis have come and twisted it like that becomes impossible to understand, impossible to say. Apalaxia. No, you have an application. Yusumun. Maza Yusumun. Oh, Yusum. I forgot lo meritze.
I was still in South Africa, and my Israeli friend was visiting me, and she was like, listen, if you want to learn how to speak Hebrew, you have to do the I was like, okay, give me a word. And she was like, Yerushalayim. And I was like, okay. I think I tried for 4 months just to get that word right.
I don't know, like Bechrech.
What?
Bechrech. That's a hard one.
When I was in the army, and it goes together with my brothers as well, we would come home from a long week, and my mother would always ask, where were you? And we would say, we were in the Shetach. And if you tell an Israeli, okay, you're in the Shetach, so an Israeli sort of knows more or less what that means. But my parents, obviously, and they didn't do the army, and they had no idea, and they would constantly ask, what is the Shetach? Where is the Shetach? We said, we looked it up on the map. We can't find the Shetach. Where is the Shetach?
Well, I've ordered 200 kilograms of meat at the butchery. instead of 2 kilograms. I told somebody that I'm an army commander. That I'm a mefakeret. I meant to tell them that I'm afraid.
Choose an Israeli person that you want to thank.
Ooh, okay.
When I first came to Israel, I didn't really know so many people, and I didn't really know how the school system operated. But in the beginning, Harav Daniel Shlefstein, he came to me and we sat and we talked for a long time, and he really explained to me how everything works here.
The person that comes to mind is the English coordinator, the Olim coordinator in the Ulpana, Anat Sabo. Anytime I had a question, whether it had to do with being an Ola or what kind of help I get, extra help, she was always there to help me.
I would really like to thank Rabbi Borstein, because he's really helped us a lot in Israel. He's helped, I think I speak on behalf of YA Boys, saying that he's really helped us integrate into the society of Israel.
So in Open Up Stream, I had a teacher that once a week would take me out for an hour. And most of the time we would just talk about life, talk about what's going on, and she was just there for me.
For me, Rav Yitzchak Milayev, when I first moved here, he was always really helpful. Anytime I had a problem, I was able to go up to him and he would help me.
I would definitely say that Chana Spiegelman is someone who made my Aliyah experience and my integration into Israeli society a success. She met with us on day one. Me and my parents, we sat in her office in the Yeshivat Nil Tamid, and we went over all the classes and everything that we were going to have to do. And she really put everything forward. She didn't hide anything. She explained how hard it was going to be. And then at the end, she said with a smile that, if this is something that we're going to take on, then she's going to be with us 100%, and she really was. Until this day, she's definitely a mentor to me.
Yeshivat B'nai Akiva for me is a place where I'm able to go to learn, not only learn, also to build a connection with the kids in my class and my teachers.
I'm really happy there.
Yeshiva Nativ Mir YA Boys is literally like a home for me, yeah? When I first came to Israel, I went to a few different schools and it was really nerve-wracking for me. But once I went to YA Boys, I really integrated into the society and really helped me a lot.
It was challenging at first, and I arrived at the beginning of 7th grade not knowing how to speak the language, and everyone was making new friends and it was difficult, but I've only been there for a year and I've learned that it's such a welcoming environment.
Yeshiva B'nai Akiva Lapid for me is a home.
People who support you and understand the struggles you go through day to day, making Aliyah with the language and the culture. It's just an amazing place.
For me, learning and studying in Yeshivat Nil Tamid was a dream come true. In America, I was studying in public school where I was the only one out of 1,500 students with a kippah on my head. When I came to Chashmonaim and Nil Tamid, and everyone was just like me, and I was able to connect with them on a different level than I was to the students in America. And there were definitely ups and downs, challenges here and there, but it was an amazing experience.
Yeshiva B'nai Akiva is I would say, a hidden gem. Especially, you get the right menahel, you get the right teachers, the chevra is excellent, and I've been pleasantly surprised in terms of what my kids are learning, coming home, what they're, understanding and how much they enjoy it?
It's like super fun, and the teachers there, they support you like no other.
For me, Ulpanat B'nai Akiva or Tzurim was a home.
We're very proud of the fact that so far in the 14 years that we've been around, 100% of our alumni have stayed in Israel, which is no small feat for a school just for Olim, and 100% have gone on to Israeli institutions after they have finished with YTA.
Ulpanat B'nai Akiva YTA for me is a safe place. It's somewhere where I can go and I don't have to feel that I'm being judged or watched over. It's a home.
The same thing for me.
Just before we move on to Mr. Alan Wild's interview with Mr. Naftali Bennett, I would like to share with you a brief insight into our new YABA-Do website. Please join me for a 2-minute peek. As you can see, we take great pride in our alumni. Besides me personally being an alumni of Yeshivot B'nai Akiva, you can see here many impressive examples of high officers in IDF and police forces. You can see doctors and professors in academia, medicine, and technology. You can see Sephardi, Ashkenazi, and Ethiopian judges, pilots, rabbis, and members of Knesset. You will be able to see for yourself some short videos that will allow you a brief visit into the life of our yeshivot and ulpanot. Actually, the map of Israel is decorated with all our 70 ulpanot and yeshivot all over the country. As you can expect, the Support YABA-Do link follows you on the left of your screen as you scroll through the website with a subtle hint for our call to action. Mentioning alumni, I am honored and privileged to pass you over to Mr. Alan Wilds, who will be interviewing one of our distinguished alumni, Mr. Naftali Bennett.
Hi, I'm Alan Wilds, President of American Friends of Yeshivot B'nai Akiva, and we're fortunate to have Naftali Bennett with us today. A little bit of an introduction. After his family made Aliyah from San Francisco in 1967, a month after the Six-Day War, Naftali Bennett was born and raised in Haifa and attended Yeshivot B'nai Akiva Yavne High School in Haifa. Mr. Bennett was drafted into the Israeli Defense Forces in 1990 and served in the Sayeret Matkal and Maglan Special Forces units of the IDF as a company commander and continues to serve in the reserves today as a major. I'd like to stop here and just mention that Rashi has always said in Hebrew, Ein omrin ela miktzat shvacho shel adam b'fanav, that one should only speak to a few of the great quality traits of a person in his presence. So all the following things that I'm going to mention, and I've mentioned already, are only represent a portion of the beautiful life and experiences that Mr. Bennett has had. Mr. Bennett moved to the United States to build a career as a software entrepreneur after he received a law degree from Hebrew University in Jerusalem. In 1999, he co-founded and served as a CEO of Ciota, an anti-fraud software company, which was sold in 2005 to RSA Security. Interestingly enough, as you might expect from an IDF commander, a stipulation of the deal was to allow the Israeli arm of Ciota to remain intact. As a result, 400 employees are employed in the company's Israeli headquarters and offices in Beersheba and Herzliya. Mr. Bennett also served as CEO of Saluto, a technology company providing cloud-based solutions, which was sold to US-based Asurion in 2013. In 2012, Forbes magazine noted Mr. Bennett as one of the former members of Israeli commando units who succeeded in the business world. After moving on from his software entrepreneurship, Mr. Bennett returned to Israel with his wife and 4 children and settled in Renana, just down the block from my sister and brother-in-law, I might add, and embarked on a career in politics. Mr. Bennett served as chief of staff of Benjamin Netanyahu from 2006 to 2008, where he led a team that developed Netanyahu's educational reform plan. From 2010 to 2012, Mr. Bennett was appointed Director General of the Yesha Council, and he led the struggle against the settlement freeze. Mr. Bennett led the Bayit HaYehudi party from 2012 to 2018 and continues to serve as a Chaver Knesset. From 2013 to 2015, he held positions such as the Minister of Diaspora Affairs, Minister of Economy, and Minister of Religious Services. As Minister of Education, Mr. Bennett changed the school's curricula to increase the number of visits to heritage sites in Judea and Samaria. From 2019 to 2020, he was Minister of the Defense. Mr. Bennett, thank you very much for joining us. If I may call you Naftali going forward, it's a little bit more of a relaxed environment. So we thank you again for your time and for being part of this. Getting right into it, I call your attention and I want to mention a particular newspaper article from 2016 in which you had a number of things to say, and they'll serve as the basis for the questions that we'll go through right now. You said that Yeshivot B'nai Akiva has had a central influence on the whole history of the state of Israel, which is really a remarkable comment. And I guess the question that I have to start off with, how did the Yeshivot B'nai Akiva that you spent time at help lay the foundations for your next steps and for your life in Israel?
First of all, I want to thank all of you for this great opportunity to speak to you, Alan, Shlomo, and all the good people. And I appreciate everyone's support for Yeshivot B'nai Akiva. I'll tell you from a perspective, both as Defense Minister of Israel and as Education Minister of Israel, so it's pretty apt. You know, throughout the years, at the beginning, there's a lot of noise, so if everyone can put on mute. The Dati, the modern Orthodox folks in Israel, at the beginning were a very, I would say, feeble group within Israel, very inward looking, and the process of the building of Yeshivot B'nai Akiva and Arav Neria and all of the grad of Druckmann and building more and more yeshivot that combine the deep study of Torah, of Gemara, together with math and English and all the sciences, and on top of all of it, the Jewish and Israeli values of contributing and turning ourselves into lives of shlichut, of a mission, and the mission is Eretz Yisrael, Am Yisrael, and Torat Yisrael. It took time, and ultimately beginning the 70s, even the 60s, 70s, and gradually much more during the 80s and 90s, this sort of harvested, and these young people who graduated from Yeshivot B'nai Akiva typically would go to either a yeshiva before the army or to a preparatory course called the Mechina, and ultimately we're so ingrained with the mission of contribution, with the value of contribution as opposed to being self-centered and materialistic, and these folks then entered the army with a strong sense of shlichut. Unfortunately, many boys fell in the various wars from the very inception, but 67 Yom Kippur and to this very day, Second Lebanon, etc. And so you have a group that views itself not as an elite, but as a shlichut elite, people who not an elite, but a group of service, that wherever we go, whether it's into business or whether it's into education or governmental work or indeed Tzahal, you know that a boger of Yeshivat B'nai Akiva is ingrained with a deep sense of desire to contribute to the state of Israel. And that's amazing. And I meet these folks day in, day out. It's a huge gift to the state of Israel and to the future of Israel.
Thank you very much. We appreciate we appreciate the comments there. So you continued in that article that I referred to earlier, and you said that we need to strengthen Yeshivot B'nai Akiva to continue this amazing mission of building a vibrant and Jewish state. And as Israel connects to Torah, to the IDF, and to the national service, transforms Israel into a better place. How would you speak specifically a little bit more to your experience and your education at the Yeshivot B'nai Akiva, and how this played a role in your IDF successes and your entrepreneurship?
First of all, I want to say the Yeshivot B'nai Akiva evolved there's been a major change, a positive change over the past 20, 25 years. A generation ago, many of the rabbis were Haredim, and now predominantly we're talking about Zionist, Kippah Suga rabbis. The whole sense is one that tells the kids, you guys are responsible. You have to take responsibility. Don't view yourselves as little kids. View yourselves as people who control your destiny and figure out how you can contribute to Medinat Israel. It's quite a challenge. The Torah that we've been learning for 2,000 years in the Galut abroad is very advanced in some areas, but there's some areas that it never developed because we didn't have a state. All the Judaism that has to do with running a modern Jewish state has never been developed. It wasn't developed in small communities in Lita or in Bavel or anywhere because we didn't have a state to run. The challenge of running a Jewish democratic state that on the one hand is Jewish in its essence, but it's also modern and that's a heck of a challenge, and we need a lot of people who understand that this is a huge and amazing and remarkable era. So we founded the country, but now we have to actually run the country. It's got to be a Jewish country and democratic country. How do we do all of this? It was way easier those 40 years in the desert where we got man and babysitting from Kadosh Baruch Hu, but now we actually have to work this out somehow. And I know that, and I'm sure you too, I am vehemently against any form of coercion. I don't believe I'm against any, we're not about that. And this is a whole new opportunity for Am Yisrael. I think it's the most exciting one in our 4,000 year history. Yeah, I would say Yoshua Ben Nun had a good time also, and David HaMelech, but we're doing not bad. And it's a challenge. And we have to view this for the next, these generations, now that we're fairly established here, a strong economy and power, a major power in the region. Now it's time to define who we are. And I think B'nai Akiva and Yeshivot B'nai Akiva have a meaningful role here in the neshama of Am Yisrael.
Yes, we agree. And that's, I guess, the last question about Yeshivot B'nai Akiva. As a former minister of education, can you speak for a moment about your feelings regarding Yeshivot B'nai Akiva and the educational landscape of Israel?
Well, first of all, when we talk about Yeshivot B'nai Akiva, we're referring both to Yeshivot B'nai Akiva and the Ulpenot for the girls. Yeah. It's just great. I love visiting. I used to do surprise visits to these yeshivas because when you're a minister and you tell the people in advance you're coming, you get this, 100 people with flags singing songs, but you don't get the real picture. When you just come in, I used to come in, just barge into a school at 10:15 in the morning on a Wednesday or whatever. There was one time the guard said, "You can't come in." I said, "Heck, I'm education minister." He said, "You didn't set an appointment. You can't come in." But anyway, we're seeing not only Yiddishkeit, but also academic excellence and a strive for excellence. And we have to be a bit honest that B'nai Akiva, used to be sort of schlumper, if you understand, sort of, and it's become much more professional, and which is a good thing, while retaining the spirit togetherness and beyachad. I think, as I said, Yeshivot Bnei Akiva is something I supported, will always support. When I see a new ulpana and a new yeshiva being built, it makes me happy, because I think this is the most beautiful combination between Torah and Avodah, Torah and Medinat Israel. In Israel, we have secular, we have Haredim, and I view everyone as, when I'm education minister, all of them, Jews and Arabs, they're all my children. I'm responsible equally for every one of them. When I see the fusion, I think that's the ideal. I think Yahadut, whichever level you're at, I want to tell you one thing that I learned dafka from living in Manhattan, something that we need to adopt and import to Israel. And I would say that's the American openness to and accepting and not judging others. In Israel, everyone's in a compartment. You're secular, chiloni, you're kippas ruga, you're knitted yarmulke, a black yarmulke, a black knitted yarmulke. That's a sub version. And in America, you're just a Jew. And I love that. I love that. While, I know exactly who I am, but, my wife, I married my wife, Gilat, she grew up in a secular home, and we got married, and it's a pretty, in Israel, it's called a mixed marriage, right? Let that be our mixed marriages. So, and I tried to bring her closer to Yahadut, to Yiddishkeit in Israel, and she didn't connect. Just imagine an Ashkenazi shul in Haifa. How warm can that be? Anyway, so she said, look, I respect it's going to be kashrut and Shabbat at home, but I don't like going to shul. Then we moved to Manhattan, and because of my high-tech stint, and we were walking on the Upper East Side, and one day we saw this little sign: if you're bored on Shabbos, come to the beginner's minyan. And so we came. There was this little Orthodox minyan next to KJ, next to Ramah, in Ramah's school on I believe it's 85th between Lex and whatever. And
you're right on target. That's perfect, by the way.
There's a nice guy called George. We thought he's a teacher or something that's making extra bucks on Shabbat, and he had a great sense of humor and had good food on the kiddush, and we didn't have much money, so any little piece of fish you could put on a cracker helped us. And we came, and she loved it, and we came again and again and again for 5 years. So my wife, and heck, I was the head of the Datiim in Israel, right? The political party but my own wife, I had to fly to over the Atlantic Ocean for her to get closer to Yahadut. And by the way, that George guy was George Rohr. He's you guys know he's one of the biggest Jewish philanthropists, but a very modest guy. Anyway, my point is, and with this, I unfortunately need to end. We in Israel need to import the acceptance of everyone, not judging people by the length of their shirt or what they have, or what they just. You're a Jew. You are. We love you. Now we can talk, and that's something that we need to improve here in Israel. The final thing I would say, as hopefully a future leader here in Israel, and currently a leader within Israel, I can say that the issue of connecting Jews in the diaspora, especially in the United States, but not only, to Am Yisrael in Medinat Israel, this is, I think, one of our biggest challenges for the next 50 years. It's one Am, it's one people. When a Jew hurts in Manhattan or in South Africa or in France, it hurts me physically. I feel it. And because we're one people, and this is something that we're going to have to work out together, how to strengthen this. Let's get done with the corona, and then we can get back to the real stuff. So I want to thank you and thank you for your ongoing support of the Yeshivot Bnei Akiva.
Thank you very much for your time and for your openness, and we wish you continued briut and hatzlacha. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Hello, my name is Yehuda Cohen, and I'm the Executive Director of the American Friends of Yeshivot Bnei Akiva. I would like to thank my partner in Israel, Rav Shlomo Kimchi, for his opening remarks and the wonderful Devar Torah about Naaseh and Ishma. Just like the can-do response to the Jewish people at Har Sinai, at YABA, we are all about action and doing. Hence our new tagline, YABA-DO. Thank you to our board president, Alan Wilds, for moderating a wonderful discussion with Naftali Bennett. We are extremely grateful that Naftali was able to take time from his very busy schedule to share with us his personal perspective about the important role YABA has played since its founding 80 years ago in creating the fabric of modern-day Israel, and more importantly, the role YABA will continue to play going forward as Israel continues its journey on the world stage as a strong and Zionist country. While Naftali Bennett is very well known, he is not alone. It is actually the norm for our graduates to take what they have learned during their time at our cutting-edge and forward-thinking YABA institutions and continue on to elite units in the IDF or to volunteer for Sherut Leumi. This foundation sets our alumni up to lead productive professional lives in fields ranging from Torah study, serving as members of the Knesset, academia, science, law, medicine, security, mathematics, and many more. I would also like to thank our board of directors and the people from all over the world who have joined us today. I hope that during this brief presentation, you were able to get an insight into the way that our 70 yeshivot, ulpanot, mechinot, and Hesder yeshivot make up the amazing YABA network. YABA educates over 24,000 students annually and has already produced over 100,000 alumni, including Naftali Bennett, that are already making an impact, and the world is a better place because of them. Simply put, the YABA network of schools provides the foundation for the religious and Zionistic future of Israel. American Friends of Yeshivot Bnei Akiva, along with your help and support, provide the funds for special initiatives and facilities that allow our schools to continue to excel at the highest levels while providing economic and social and emotional support to the students who need it. It would literally take me hours to tell you about all of the incredible innovations and accomplishments going on within our network of schools. But I'd like to highlight a few examples that are emblematic of the unique institutions that make up the YABA network. Lachish B'nai Dekalim is a brand new girls' high school created for the resettled families who were displaced from Gush Katif. Due to its excellent reputation for warmth and academic excellence, it has grown from 0 students to 240 students in just the 3 years since its inception. YTA Boys and Girls Schools, features in the video you saw earlier, provide a supportive environment for English-speaking Olim to thrive academically while they adapt to their lives in Israel. Lapid, Torat Nachum and Modi'in. All you need is one look in the trophy case and you can see the results of the cutting-edge robotics programs where they successfully compete against schools from all around the world. Kiryat Herzog in Bnei Brak produces high school students who simultaneously excel at the highest levels of Torah learning and graduate with an advanced engineering degree in a joint program with Machon Lev. We are also extremely proud that this school counts amongst its alumni the very first Ethiopian pilot in the IDF. And yes, he is religious. Ormo Ophir is a post-high school Hesder program specifically for disadvantaged Ethiopian students that, in addition to developing and strengthening their academic skills, literally breaks the cycle of poverty and builds self-esteem by helping the students secure a driver's license and providing their students with free dental care so that they can smile with confidence. Na'aleh, which is part of the Amanah School in Kfar Saba, is a program where girls interested in making Aliyah from all over the world come to Israel without their families and attend high school free of charge beginning in the 10th grade. I think you can see from these examples why our new tagline, YABA-DO, is so fitting. At YABA, we definitely do, and these programs are just a sampling of the extraordinary programs that you may not have been aware of. I hope that in today's presentation, we were able to give you a glimpse into the work YABA does every day, and I look forward to continuing the conversation with each of you. If you have any questions about the specific schools or projects, please feel free to reach out to me at 201-538-8437 or via email at yehuda@afyba.org. In addition, as Rav Kimchi demonstrated earlier, you can visit our updated website at www.yaba-do.org. Our website has a wealth of information about the organization, and my contact information can be found there as well. We hope that you enjoyed our presentation. Please consider investing and becoming a stakeholder yourself in YABA-Do so that we can continue our efforts to prepare the future of Israel today. Thanks in advance for your participation.